Hello, chess world. I'm back with my daily stream. Yesterday I showed my brilliancy. I showed the way I'm supposed to play in every game. And today we will discuss the games that didn't end so well for me. And the blunders that I made, the mistakes that I made in my games in 2020. Well, luckily for me, there were not so many games in 2020, and thus not so many opportunities to make those blunders. Well, I can say same for my good moves, of course. But that was yesterday's stream. Today is all about blunders. And let's start from the very beginning. They say it's a very good place to start. Black to move. My very first game of 2020 ended with a huge blunder. And, and that's how it all started. I was playing black. It was a very interesting, tense game. I played well. And it was a complex Scotch opening, and I castled long on move 23, and I was attacking with all my power, and it seemed that I'm about to succeed. Well, my opponent defended well. He found rook e4, but it shouldn't be. It shouldn't have been enough. Here I could have given a check on h2. Okay, I played queen h3, and then the easiest way here to proceed was to play rook to f8, queen to g2, attacking the f2 square, bishop e1, and then play g4 with this very strong threat of getting the rook to the f3, to the third rank. And then, well, my position is like, you probably can see that I dominate here. But I didn't give check on f8. I played rook h4 that might be even stronger. And here I decided that it's time. It's time to take on e4. It was not the best move. It was possible, but was not the best. Probably the strongest was to play knight to d7, postponing getting back the exchange. And here I'm winning this knight. And that's a very beautiful, was a very beautiful way to finish the game. Well, unfortunately for me, I was in time trouble. I didn't notice it. I wanted to play queen g2, which was also a good move to make. And then bishop e4 was winning here as well, because actually the queen is trapped. But I also didn't make this move. I took on e4. I decided to play safer. And here comes the blunder. I could have taken on d3 and play and make knight d7 move. I'm not winning, but I have a very good good advantage. And well, I can play d3, or I can even take on g5 and play a rook e4, and my rook is coming to e2. So a very risk-free position, but with not so many chances to win, probably. Also, I could have given a check on g4 and play like this, and knight d7 here with the idea of playing g4, of taking an e5, and continuing the attack. But unfortunately for me, I wouldn't ask you what blunder I made here. But I played queen to f5, and that hurts. Actually, that hurts very much. I'm sure you can say why. You can notice why. Yeah. Never ever, yes, put your pieces on unprotected squares, and certainly do pay attention to checks that your opponent can give you. Yeah, that hurt. And of course, like a second, just milliseconds after I made this queen f5, I noticed this blunder, and oof, yeah. I wish I could ask for a take back, because that unfortunately doesn't work. It doesn't work like this in chess. And knight d6 followed, and I believe I just resigned. I just resigned. It was such a nice game to begin the year with. Before queen f5. Yeah, and that's how I lost. That's how my year began. And well, and I had troubles throughout the year with maybe not like such huge blunders, but definitely some of them. Okay, let's carry on. I don't know what happened to my games that I prepared. No, that's not the one that that's the next one. The next one, the first one was from Gibraltar Open in January. This game, actually, it's a lucky one, because I played against Valentina Gunina. It was the real Lopez. Close variation with d3. And, well, she opted for the c4 move. And, well, so far so good. Here probably I could have taken on f3. Somehow, I don't know what happened. I lost absolutely every reasonable understanding of what's going on. I mean, if you don't know what to do. Okay, I was scared to play bishop e7 because of g4 and then some ideas with h4. That's why probably taking on f3 even here would have been a better option, but I was sad that I didn't take on f3 the move earlier on the move, and I thought for a very long time and came up with a brilliant queen b8. Nowhere to go move. I don't know where this queen is going. I mean, I understood the idea, that White's idea is to play knight d5, and so queen b8 was kind of preparing for knight d5 move, but suddenly she played knight d5 anyway, and I realized that b5 is not a possibility here, because she can just simply take on b5 and the fork is coming, even though rook to c1 is even stronger. So knight d5 was played very fast by White, and here I was thinking about the consequences of the move queen b8, which looks absolutely unnatural and not good at all. Yes, I saw the fork on c7, I saw it for a little longer and made this terrible move, my blunder number 2, which is queen c8. Well, I think the blunder is not really queen c8, but the move here that followed. I played knight to d8. Knight e7 might have been a little bit better. Knight d4. Oops. Knight d4. Bishop e7. But I played knight to d8. I don't know what was happening to me in this game, but this maneuvers queen b8, queen c8, and knight d8. And here comes the brilliancy from Valentina. A very nice move for White, which of course I missed, and that also hurt a lot to see it on the board. Any ideas how I should proceed here? Let me turn the board around. White to play. and not win though, because at the end White even lost her game, but definitely get a big advantage. As we know, it's not always enough, this big advantage, in order to win the game, but okay, let's see. Bishop b6, a very nice and unpleasant move, and it's all about forks. After knight e6, bishop takes c7 followed, and then if I take on c7, knight b6 will be with a triple fork. That's why I try to complicate the game with b5 and played knight takes c7, sacrificing my queen. And luckily for me, Valentina won it with rook c1. Instead, knight to b6 was much stronger. And here her position is, well, not really winning yet, but very close to it. In the game after rook c1, somehow I managed to survive this opening catastrophe and even managed to win this game afterwards. But of course, missing bishop b6 was a big unpleasant surprise. Okay, let's carry on. Then I wanted to show you the game with Maria Muzachuk. Well, you see, when we say about blunders, we usually mean like in my first blunder, blundering the queen, but it's not always about, or yes, it's not always about blundering the queen. Sometimes it's just blundering in terms of choosing the wrong direction. And here, for example, my position, it's hard to say, but my position, I have a very pleasant position, a very good one. Probably, well, not close to winning, but definitely like a very big plus. Even only if I could understand that and keep the queens on the board. Queen e1 here was a very strong move, sacrificing the pawn, but taking into account the fact of exposed king, black's exposed king in the center, that's definitely was the way to proceed. And here I can either play knight e5, or I can take and play queen d2, rook e1, and black will suffer with the queen on in the center. Unfortunately for me, I decided to get into an endgame, and in the endgame, later on in this game, I blundered again because I was in time trouble, and I decided to repeat moves. I decided to play here knight d3 with idea after rook e4 to play knight c5 again, and then think about this position a little bit longer. And for some reason I just simply forgot about rook g to a8, and that's the move that happened, and I was losing. I was losing and lost this game because suddenly, even though we're in the rook endgame, which are known to be quite drawish, and we have, I mean, the amount of pawns is equal. We have equal pawns on the board, but my king position and, well, this pawn is about to be lost, and it's very difficult to save this endgame, although I might have survived if I would have played c4 with the idea of saving the pawn on c6 even though I might lose these 2 pawns, this pawn on c6 is much more important. I didn't manage to find this idea. Well, I did, but not in the right moment, and lost this game later on, although again I had some chances. But I would call, in this game there were many bad moves. The first one is queen d2, deciding to get to an endgame, which is not better for me. I overestimated this endgame. I thought that it's better. Instead of keeping the queens on the board and sacrificing the pawn and trying to use undevelopment of black's pieces and the vulnerable position of black's king. And of course, like the blunder, another big mistake comes in this moment, where I could have played knight to d7 and then trying to attack this knight on d5, because king e7 is not possible because of rook d5. Instead, I decided to repeat the position once more and played knight d3 and completely forgot that black's rook is already on a7. It's not how it doesn't have to go to a4 to protect the pawn, and the black can just go to a8, counter-attacking the pawn on a2. So knight d3 was a bit unfortunate. Okay. Next moment that I wanted to discuss, also very big mistakes that I made, was happened in the same tournament. And actually the games that I just showed you against Maria Muzachuk is from Grand Prix in Lausanne, but this position is from my last game in St. Louis against the current women's world chess champion, reigning women's world chess champion Zhu Yunzun. And I was playing white. It was a Berlin defense, a Berlin endgame. I didn't play well this endgame, and black got good position, but then made some inaccuracies, and here already I was I could have equalized the game by playing bishop d4 and then taking on b5. Okay, there are 2 bishops, which scared me a little bit, but they're not that scary here, because that's the main line. I'm doing fine here. Even though I saw this line and I saw that the pawn on a7 and it's kind of bishop against knight, it was hard for me to evaluate, and that's why I didn't go for this line in the game, but it was definitely a much better choice than the path that I chose in my game. If black takes on d6 here, then I can take on b5, on d6, and here I'm even, well, I'm not worse at all, even though this pawn is seems to be very strong, but my knight, as we know, knights are very good pieces to blockade passed pawns, and this is the case. When black takes, I take on h5, and I can manage also to survive here. Instead, in the game, because I couldn't evaluate that position with bishop versus knight and the passed pawn on a7, I decided to make another move, which is equal to resigning actually the game. I took on b5, and I let black's rook to go to the second rank, and here my position is just very bad. I might have played a little bit better here, but still too difficult to resist these 2 bishops and the rook on the second file, and I lost a few moves later. So instead of a takes b5, my blunder, one of very bad moves of the year, I could have saved the game by taking on d4 and not opening up the a file for the rook, which is crucial. You should not let your opponent's pieces get into good squares and in good position if you can. Let's carry on. And what do I have? Yes. They kind of mixed up. Okay, that was my next mistake. Like a huge blunder. Okay, it was a blitz game, so it's not. I'm sure I made hundreds of those blunders in 2020, but like in official tournaments, there were not so many, and that one was also very unfortunate. I played a very well game. I mean, I played this game very well. I outplayed my opponent with black pieces, and it's a very strong Chinese player, the member of the national team. And well, I mean, there were just a few moves to make before winning. Actually, I don't know why I played this strange move. Why I didn't just take on g7, and my position is just completely winning. Somehow I decided not to calculate a lines, but my pawns are too much forward to be able to stop them, and that was the easiest way to win, and of course that's how I should have proceeded. Instead I've played before. Well, it doesn't change a lot, but here somehow I decided to play safely, to put the rook on the 8th file in order to I don't know why, in order not to let white give any checks from this side. But I just completely forgot there are two sides in chess, not only the queen side but also the king side. And here I played b3. Rook e3 was still, or rook e4 was still winning. Okay, I should have demonstrated some good technique here after rook e1, but it's still winning. And b3, I suppose, yeah, something like this. And then rook e4. In the game, instead of rook e3 or rook e4, I played b3. And that's also hurt. Yes, rook h1 was indeed a threat, an easy threat, and when it followed, you realize that there is nothing to do, and a good place in the tournament slipped away with this blunder, because I started this tournament wonderfully, I think with 5 out of 5 or 6 out of 6 in the first day. Then collapsed in the second, and in the third one I was doing well, I was playing well, and well, that's how it all ended. Not well enough. Not well enough, because I've lost my chances to the podium. Yes, there is no way to save the king from being checkmated. Even in the end game it happens. I played rook e6, but well, she could have played king to f6 and rook h8 anyway. She played rook e1. It's enough. It's enough to win the game. Yes, and that's how I lost. So that's one of those blunders that hurt a lot. Although it was a blitz game, but of course I should have taken this pawn on g7 a few moves earlier. And let's carry on. There was a long break from May in blunders. Well, at least in the ones that I chose. And all my next games, all my next bad moves came in the Russian Super Final. Although, as you might remember if you watched my yesterday's podcast, there were also good moves that I made. But also bad ones. That that is the game from the second round of the Russian Super Final. It was a very complex Ruy Lopez Breyer variation, and I wanted to checkmate my opponent, as you can see from my queen on g5 and knights on h4 and g3, but somehow it just didn't work. She defended well, she put her queen on f8 and thus protecting her king. But here comes the crucial moment of the game. I still had about 20 minutes till time trouble. Yeah, and knight f5 would have been a very good continuation, which of course I saw. And then knight to h6. And black cannot take on b2. I mean, she can take, but after this f4, then my dreams might have come true. Black's position, yes, here it's just collapsing, because a file is about to open, and the knight on h6 together with the rook, with the queen. I mean, it's very powerful. So rook takes b2 is a bad move here. I didn't play like this because I thought, well, she would play knight g8 and I will not get with this maneuver to anything, but in fact, well, I can just take. Then I can take on d7, which is here is a very difficult move to make, but it's a very good one, because the knight was heading to c5, and it's strong in this position. It's stronger than this bishop, so that's why exchanging is a good idea. And then rook a1 with idea to take on a6. If black takes on b2, rook takes a6, I have a very good position. My plan is to play a4 to open up the file and continue the attack. And black has many weaknesses, so that was definitely the way to proceed. What's worse, I saw this line. I mean, I saw this idea, knight h to f5 and then knight h6, but somehow, I don't know why, I didn't make this move. And also I saw another very interesting idea, was to take on d7 here immediately, because I realized that the knight here is looks stronger than the bishop, and I considered this exchange. Knight e3, and again quite a pleasant position, maybe not as good as after knight h6, but something like this might have followed, and even I found a perpetual here. The game could have ended, but alas, but I don't know why. Even though I saw that this move would lead to piece sacrifice, I decided to sacrifice it anyway. I played f4. I wanted so much to make this move that I just couldn't resist, and no, knight h5 here is not possible because of just simply taking on h5. I just couldn't resist to make this move, but unfortunately for me, h6 follows. Of course, this one I saw this line, and actually here e takes f4 would have been even stronger. In the game, g takes f5 followed. Going to this position, I went for this line in order to sacrifice my piece and to get this position with, as I thought, some counter chances. I calculated mostly rook takes b2, and here I hope to find something. I don't know what. There is actually nothing so critical to sacrifice a piece for. But my opponent played knight to g8, the move that I didn't even consider. Well, it's a good move, and my last chance here to complicate the game, well, to keep the tension on the board, was knight e3, and actually it's a move that I was going to make, but for some reason I didn't. The position, of course, is better for black, but at least here the king is weak. I'm about to take the pawn on e5, the pawn on f7 will be hanging, so there are some practical chances to survive. But in the game I made another blunder, rook to f2, and after knight c5, bishop takes f5, the position is just lost. And yes, and I lost this game. And yes, that was a very unfortunate start of the Russian Super Final for me, because instead of getting a very good position after knight f5 check, knight h6, I made this terrible f4 move, even though I don't know, I mean, I think it's even worse when you see everything, every single line, but somehow go for the worst one of all the possibilities that you consider and calculate, because all the lines that I showed you I saw in the game. Well, maybe of course not till the very last moment, but I went for this f4 anyway. I mean, in the first game, I blundered the queen, but at least, well, it was just a one move blunder. I played queen f5, I forgot about this, discovered knight d6 check, and that's it. But here I saw everything, I understood everything, and I went for this suicidal move anyway. I don't know why, how it works. Yes, it's always easy to see in retrospect, I agree with you, but I wish I could understand how it functions. Why sometimes you see everything but you make this weak moves anyway. Okay, let's carry on. It was not over for me in terms of blunders in the Russian super final, unfortunately. Another one I did in the game against Polina Shuvalova. The girls started with 6 out of 6 in the Russian super final, but wasn't able to get to win the championship anyway. Well, I misplayed the opening completely. I got a lost position, but somehow my opponent was generous enough to give me some chances and sacrificed 2 pawns, and here I could have played f takes e5, which again, the moves that I saw. Unfortunately for myself, I didn't see what I was going to do after queen a2. I thought that my position is very unpleasant, because if I take on d2, the rook, or the bishop will protect the rook. Knight f7 is a threat, bishop d5 is a threat. I mean, a lot of stress here. And that's why I didn't go for this line. Unfortunately, I didn't notice that I have a very strong c5 move, and my rook suddenly gets into play, and I have good chances. Not only not to lose this game, but even to win it. Knight d3, I don't know what will happen after knight d3, but probably I will retreat my queen somewhere and might be able to save it. I played f5, well, a very bishop b5 was even stronger, but that's also impossible to support. That is the key move in many positions of this game. I played f5, queen takes f5 seems to be a mistake, and well, so far so good. And here comes like the last critical moment of this game, where I just simply made a blunder. I forgot that the knight on d3 is protecting the pawn on f2, and I forgot that the bishop can move. I made this g6, terrible g6 move, and after bishop h6 I realized that there is no rook takes f2, and thus I can just simply resign. Too many pieces are hanging. Instead, well, it was not very easy to understand how to play. c5 might be a good idea again, with the idea to support the pawn on d4, to bring this rook into play, but for that you needed to see what would have happened after rook h1, and I didn't see it. That's why I didn't make the c5 move. Here bishop c6 is a very strong idea, but somehow in a time trouble, very hard to notice. Yes, computer plays very well in these situations, but for a human being it was mission impossible. There are many other nice moves. Probably the easiest one to play was knight takes f4, and then bishop b4 immediately does not work because of rook h1, threatening to give checkmate. So that's why rook takes f4 first, and then bishop b4 might have been an idea, but again, rook h1 does not work here because of queen g6. That's why it was so important to sacrifice the exchange, to open up the g file, to open up the king, and king f1, bishop b5. Black is even winning here. I suddenly have a piece up. That might have been possible to calculate, but alas, I wasn't able to. Another strong move here, but also very difficult to notice, is bishop b5. And the idea is to pin this knight after rook h1 to take on f4, g takes f4, and then play g6. And again, I'm winning. Suddenly I'm the side who is winning here. So you see, sometimes in these crucial moments you just need to make one move in the right direction, and the game can be either won or lost. And unfortunately for me, in this game, I just made another blunder in the situation where everything could have happened, but not after g6. Yes, bishop b5 was a very good move to make. Yes, indeed, it's a very hard position, but it was definitely a blunder, because I just saw that this bishop is not moving. It cannot move because the pawn, I thought that I am attacking the pawn, and in fact I'm not. In fact, the knight is protecting, the knight on this3 is protecting the pawn on f2. If I'd noticed it, I wouldn't play g6. The other moves that I considered during the game was c5, was knight f4. Bishop b5, I didn't even look so far away, and because I thought that rook h1 is threatening, so I thought that I should do something about this move, and g6 was at least protecting the pawn on h5. Okay, and that was not my last mistake in the Russian Super Final. These two mistakes that I just showed you in the games against Alisa Galyamova and Polina Shuvalova are relatively small compared to the one I made in the round number 10, where I survived after these two losses in round 2 and 3. I made a comeback, I played some nice games, and when it was going so well in this position against Marina Guseva, as you can see, I am 2 pawns up, and even though it seems as black is having some counter chances, it's not really true, because I considered, here I thought for a while, and I wanted to play bishop to c2. Unfortunately for me, I didn't make this move, because I realized that the black can play rook f to c8. And I calculated the following line. I calculated it in the game, and I saw knight f4, and I thought that black is doing fine here, because because if I go queen to f1, she's gonna take on e5, and after rook b7 I saw knight h3 and queen f4, and black is winning. And I was just about to make this bishop c2 move and thought, how lucky I am to have noticed this line for black. Unfortunately, I am winning in this line, but here after knight f4 there is only one move that saves the game for white, but it's not only saves the game but wins the game. I was not able to foresee it. I was not able to realize that this position is actually winning for white. And the winning move is queen to f3. Queen to f1 is losing, but queen to f3, somehow psychologically it's very difficult to spot, because I'm kind of putting my queen under the radar of this bishop, but it just doesn't work here anymore. And what's important here is that my bishop is protecting my queen, my king, and it's also quite an important thing to realize that bishop f1 is saving the king after this knight h3. I wasn't able to do so. I saw another move which I liked, knight h3, kind of very strange move. If kids are watching this podcast, don't do this in your games, but sometimes, yes, when we say that knights should not go to the edge of the board, except we always add the cases where it should. Yeah, so and this is the case. Knight h3 is a very strong move here. Why? Because the f4 square is very important here, and because I'm just moving my knight away from this queen's attack. After d4 I can play f4 finally, and then bishop d2, bishop b4 is a threat, bishop c2, bishop e4 is an idea. I have a very good position, 2 extra pawns, and well, black does have still some initiative, right? She can try to create some threats, but it shouldn't be enough to even save the game. And if I play b3 here, can I play b3? Maybe it's not the best idea here because black has some counter chances. So you see, I still should be careful. But in the game, I decided to to protect the knight immediately by playing f4. I thought that only after she plays h6, I would retreat my knight to h3, and thus I will force my opponent even to weaken the king side more. Yeah, but that was a huge blunder that almost destroyed my tournament completely. Wow, what a nice number of viewers I have right now, 666. Well, I would prefer 777, but 666 is a nice number to see on the screen. Okay, and what followed? Yes, right. Never say never, though. Never say never. f4 looked as such a good move, protecting the knight on g5, but somehow I forgot that rooks can be sacrificed. And I just didn't consider rook c1. I wish I could. I wish I have. I wish I would. Because after rook takes c1, I'm just simply lost. Nothing I can do about it. h5, a very strong move. And here, one more important thing. This bishop on a4, which I placed, so it's a very bad position for this bishop. Unfortunately, because of this position, rook takes f4 is not helping, since 2 of my pieces are en prise and they are under attack and I cannot save both. But after queen g4, h5, and I cannot go to g3 because of knight e2. And the game was over. Yeah, just simply over, and I was very, very disappointed, I must say, because it seemed as I was doing great. I was on +2, going to +3, and even some theoretical chances for like silver medal or who knows what. But yeah, I just lost this game, and it seems as the tournament is over. Somehow, luckily for me, I was able to survive this defeat. I was able to win the last game, and as you can see from the picture above, One day after this terrible blunder, I was standing there with a smile and with 2 medals. The first one being a gold medal we were awarded that day for the online Olympiad, and the second one, how it was possible, I don't know, but was a bronze medal of the Russian super final, which I nevertheless never, despite the fact that I blundered in this game, I was able to win. But oops, it's not over yet in terms of terrible blunders. The last blunders that I wanted to share with you, was it 10 or 9? So, because I have another game prepared, but that was from the Cairns Cup. Okay, anyway, if it was 9, then it would be 9. That was a game from an online event. I was playing a player 1900 rating, and well, I'm winning completely here. Just simply winning. I could have taken with my bishop on c3, and well, just simply winning endgame. Bishop b4, 2 extra pawns, and just a few moves before my opponent would have resigned. But instead, here comes the last blunder of 2020, the last terrible move I made. Of course, I made it without even thinking for like a few seconds. Maybe just for like 1 or 2 seconds I made this move. Then my opponent replied and I said, oops. And then I think I had about like 12 minutes to the rest of the game, and it was a 15-minute game. So as you can see, it didn't take much time to get a winning position, but I made this move, I got this reply, and I spent, I think, almost 8 or 9 minutes contemplating of what happened. I wish I could spend 1 or 2 of those minutes here in this particular moment. So I took on c3. But not with the bishop, but with the rook. And what was my opponent's reply? Yep. She just simply took on b6. And that's it. And I realized that after rook a3, which actually happened in the game, b7 will follow. But when I was taking on c3, I thought that, well, a takes b6, I'm going to take with the pawn. But the problem is that here I'm just getting checkmated. Simply rook a8, bishop h6, and I have nothing to do. I calculated for a while lines that start with rook c1. First of all, bishop can take on c1, and second, after this few very nice checks, I just cannot protect from being checkmated. So it hurt to blunder like this. Да, с Новым годом, спасибо всем за поздравления. Well, that was an online game. A rapid game, and what was worse, it was played for in teams competition. Okay, it didn't really change the result of the match, it didn't influence in any way, but blundering like this, yucks. Okay, I took on a3, And here, the more stubborn way to play was bishop e5, protecting the pawn, and then hoping for a miracle. I played h6, I lost on d6, and okay, you know, queen is just too much. Too much. I was not able to survive here. No miracles happened. Well, and that's how it ended for me. My year of 2020. It started with a blunder, it ended with a blunder. Need to solve more tactics, what can I say? And that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to do a few of puzzle rushes for those of you who are going to watch the stream in on my YouTube channel later on. Probably you won't be able to see those rushes, but hopefully you enjoyed going over blunders, the blunders I made. Well, but for the Twitch channel I continue the stream. Where do I live now? Well, a citizen of the world, as they say. I wish I knew the answer to this question. You know, I was... people keep asking me this question, I have no idea how to answer. I have no idea how to answer. В каком году были на пике в классике? Знаете, тут надо, наверное, отвечать как Иванчук. У меня был стрим с ним. Я его спрашивала, ну, какая ваша лучшая партия, какой ваш лучший турнир? Он говорит, ну, знаете, я же еще не сыграл, я пика еще не достиг. Вот, мне кажется, правильный ответ.